So, I got this Farm and Ranch Living magazine in front of me. It's for families who love the land, celebrate the most precious seeds, and the must see ag collections. We're paying homage to the American farm in the June July issue. And believe it or not, I've got lots of pages marked that I want to share with you. So, let's get started. Okay. Loving the Life. This is seasonal photos and stories from the readers. The very first thing that we're starting off with is Charlie's Selkie Farm. Chick Talk. Charlie Page likes getting up in the morning, helping Mommy with her chores, but her favorite thing to do is to hang out with her chicks, and they have a heart-to-heart talk with them. Taylor Rush from Delphi, Indiana. And it's got a little picture of a girl in John Deere coveralls, and she's got these little chicks that are so cute, and it even has a chalkboard sign that says Charlie's Selkie Farm. Adorable. Okay, home is where the watermelon is. Our kiddos are living their best lives on our family's new 8.5-inch acres. This photo was taken by Emily Reynolds, and it says it all. We're so excited these country boys will be able to grow up here. Lauren Linneman from Deep Gap, North Carolina. It's got two little boys in a wagon. One is quite a bit younger than the other one, and they're both just mystified at looking at the watermelon. And they're sitting on, it looks like a nice little towel in the wagon. It's adorable. 2. Queens on Horseback. Clinton County Estrakan Senior Queen, Sierra Clogman, and the Junior Queen, Brooklyn Biddle, presented the flag during the county fair in July. Robin Krogman from Clinton, Iowa. Right where they belong. For McCoy and the Kyle, the farm is a happy place, and they enjoy playing in the hayloft while walking sheep and riding in the tractor with Daddy. Natalie Norton took this sweet picture for us. Courtney Venzel from Bloomington, Indiana. The little boy is asleep, it looks like, in the hay, wearing his cowboy hat, his chaps, and his little cowboy boots. And the little girl looks like, I wonder what would happen if I jumped on him. And she's got pigtails and just adorable little blonde girl. Tristan and Friends. Our grandson Tristan is 6. He comes over every day after school to help his pop and Mimi feed the calves and take hay to the mamas. In his John Deere Gator, Tristan is a big fan of steam and diesel engines and has his names for the calves and his favorite characters on Thomas and Friends. David and Sue Gray from Clearbrook, Virginia. Singing Her Praises in Farm to Table this month. It's page 14. His mother worked as hard in the kitchen as any man in the field. Darwin Anthony from Trimont, Minnesota. The Threshman's meals weren't just lunch, it was an event. There was a feeling of competition, too, with the food that showed off the skills of the cook, of the grain yields that showed off the skills of the fanners. My mother worked hard to plan and prepare these meals, and if threshing wasn't completed on the first day because of a rain delay, heavy dew, or larger than average yields, she would be expected to serve them 2 consecutive days. Can you imagine her worry? She fired the cook stove with wood or cobs to keep the heat at bay. Our summer kitchen, where my mother also did her laundry and cannon, was located out away from the main house. The summers were hot and we didn't have any electricity, so we used a small ice box to keep things cool. These meals were an important part of life on the prairie, and timing was crucial. The rush began long before noon. In addition to midday meal, my mother made a quote-unquote morning lunch of sandwiches that she delivered to the field in a pan covered with a clean dishcloth. This was well before the time of prepackaged food, so everything was made from scratch. The farm supplied meat, usually roast beef, pork, or fried chicken, and the large garden provided vegetables. When she was done cooking, my mother would carry the prepared food to the house kitchen, where a hungry crew sat washed and waiting. The men washed in an enamel pan. They sat on a bench near the windmill, so they filled it with a pan from the cooler, a small tank near the main stock tank, and each would wipe the sweat from his face and hands with towels with what my mother made from feed sacks. At the table, the men passed around large platters, emptying them quickly. After piling their plates with plenty of meat and mashed potatoes, they'd pour on a rich gravy made with drippings off from the frying pan and top it all off with a string bean and peas. As they ate, the men talked of the weather, crop prices, and horses. There was an unwritten rule that politics and religion were off limits. At the end of the meal, my mother would serve a dessert of homemade pie. My mother was a wonderful cook, but few of the men ever remarked on the meal. For this reason, I will always remember our neighbor, John Intokalfer. He seemed to appreciate what my mother had done more than anyone, and he always thanked her for the meal. Receiving such a compliment was rare in those days, and as most took her work for granted. As the men got up from the table and moved outside, those who finished their early might have made some shade and lie down on the lawn. This was the time of rest from threshing, but also from overeating. Meanwhile, my mother set about the washing dishes, kettles, and skillets before starting out the afternoon meal. I am absolutely convinced that my mother worked harder than any of those threshmen, including my own father, but history speaks of the workers in the field and not enough about the workers in the kitchen. It shows the Minnesota threshmen hard at work in the 1930s in the field. And there's a recipe on the next page for a juicy cherry pie. Lucky us, cherry season falls right in the heart of summer. For this recipe, I recommend using tart cherries that are shiny, plump, and bright in color. They should feel relatively firm when pressed lightly. Karen Berner from New Canaan, Connecticut. The prep time is 35 minutes plus chilling. Your bake time will be 55 minutes and it makes 8 servings. You're going to need 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2/3 cup of cold unsalted butter cubed, 1/3 cup shortening, 6 to 10 tablespoons of ice water. Now, your filling will be 5 cups of fresh tart cherries, and they have to be pitted, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, 1/4 teaspoon almond extract, 1 cup sugar, 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, and your sugar topping, 1 tablespoon of 2% milk, 1 teaspoon of sugar. In a large bowl, mix your flour and salt. Cut in the butter and shortening until crumbly. Gradually add ice water, tossing with a fork until the dough folds together when pressed. Divide dough in half, shape into a disc, cover and refrigerate 1 hour overnight. 2. Preheat your oven to 375 degrees. For filling, place cherries in large bowl, drizzle with lemon juice and almond extract. In a small bowl, mix sugar, flour, and cinnamon. Sprinkle over the cherries and toss gently to coat. Now your next step. On a lightly floured surface, roll 1 dough portion into a 1/8 inch thick circle. Transfer to a 9-inch pie plate. Trim the crust even with the rim and add your filling. Next step. Roll the remaining dough into a 1/8 inch thick circle. Cut out stars or other shapes using cookie cutters. Now place the top crust over the filling, trim and seal with flute the edges. If desired, decorate the top with the cutouts. Bake for 40 minutes. For top and brush top of pie with milk, sprinkle with sugar. Bake for another 15 to 20 minutes longer until that crust is golden brown and the filling is bubbly. Cook on a wire rack. Now 1 piece of this delicious, juicy cherry pie is 521 calories, 24 grams fat, 12 grams saturated fat, 41 milligrams of cholesterol, 155 milligrams of sodium, 72 grams of carbs, 34 grams sugar, 3 grams fiber, and 6 grams of protein. Moving forward, next paper clip. Okay, I thought this part was really interesting, and with summer coming on, what better way to rediscover America than going to a tour of discovery? The country's coolest ag museums teach history, farm skills, and much more. By Jill Gilson. And we've got pictures here of, it looks like John Deere, lots of John Deere caps, and there's an eagle in the middle of all of it. It's really cute. Let's see here. After an exceptionally long, difficult winter, summer is here at last. The sun is shining, temperatures are rising, and our cultural institutions, Donna, get your tongue straight, have started to reopen. Among these are museums dedicated to sharing farm and ranch history and practice, which is welcome news as we take our first careful steps out of social isolation. Whether you love toy tractors or prefer the real deal, you can't get enough of old barns, or you're interested in learning more about how ag has helped shape different regions of the country, the following destinations are guaranteed to educate and entertain in equal measure. The picture that they actually show that I just told you about is located in South Dakota's Little Village Farm Museum, and it houses a fun and far-ranging collection. Okay. This next one here is the Little Village Farm Museum in Trent, South Dakota. And it does give a phone number, which is 605-428-5979. It says, "Come around, see what's been around," reads one of the many windmills at the Little Village Farm, where antique barns, top, and collections that span from ball caps to tractors, previous page, are among the draws. So apparently the previous page where I told you about those ball caps and tractors, that's where this is located, at this Little Village Farm Museum. It isn't merely the historical barns and the shed that dazzle the Little Village Farm Museum, and even if the buildings weren't stuffed with thousands of antique items, which were most definitely, certainly they are, the place would be worth a visit. Among the structures you'll find planted on the corner of Jim and Joan Lacey's South Dakota farm a replica of George Washington's famed 16-sided barn, a couple of granaries, a round chicken coop, and 9-sided building designed to house pigs. There are windmills as well as beauty that started it all, a round barn from the couple saved for the demolition back in 1995. They planned to store their tractors in it. Joan and Jim promised he would stop restoring barns after the first two, but by 1999 the couple had gathered up enough outbuildings and other collectibles to establish the little village. The museum is generally available for visits from April through November, boasts truly impressive displays of goods related to the bygone days on the prairie. The partial list alone is enough to leave a farm enthusiast gobsmacked. A fire engine from the 1950s, some 50 types of canning jars, portable chicken coops and incubators, washing machines including one dating to 1885, cast iron stoves, gas pumps, porcelain and enamelware, water, canning and medicine crocks, toy tractors, lightning rod balls, seed sacks, porcelain signage, and literally thousands of ball caps, which is to say nothing about a huge variety of farm equipment. And in this category you'll find fanning mills, grading tools, coin shellers, scythes, and a circa 1600 pitchfork. Tours are given by Jim, and they're mostly held by appointment and on the weekends. The National Farm Toy Museum in Dyersville, Iowa. And they have a website, nationalfarmtoymuseum.com. The 12,000 square foot facility houses miniature dioramas and the unique pieces like Arcade Caterpillar pictured above. How cool is that? Fans of the ag-related whimsy will not want to miss the National Farm Toy Museum, a two-story wonder boasting roughly 9,000 items. The attraction was founded in 1986, tells the history of agriculture through farm toys, says manager Amanda Schwartz. We have a very unique perspective. We can scale things down and tell a whole farm story in 1/16 or 1/64 scale, depending on the toys we want to use. We have a lot of fun with that. And we try to expand our visitors' idea of what agriculture is. For example, we've done cotton gin displays and things that show farming is just not about corn and soybeans. The permanent collection mostly zeroes in on the tractor replicas, but it also includes other types of toy farm machinery, implements plus construction, lawn and garden equipment, tin barns, model kits, and plenty more. The oldest plaything in the museum is likely a rare Wilkins cast iron horse-drawn mower, which dates back to the early 1880s. There are temporary exhibits too. 100 Years of Nebraska Tractor Test Act delves into the landmark bill that helped establish the tractor reliability standard, but the most charming may be the wooden marbles, an exhibit of the incredible farm toys built by the area woodworker Bernie Klushner. Foregoing nails and screws, Bernie assembled his toys with wood and glue alone. On June 5th and 6th, the museum is slated to hold its annual Summer Farm Toy Show, with more than 100 vendors buying and selling farm equipment replicas from pedal tractors to 1/64 scale toys. Events include a diorama contest and a full-scale tractor parade. New Hampshire, Donna will get it right in a minute, she's a little tired, sorry. New Hampshire Farm Museum, Milton, New Hampshire, and they have a website, which is nhfarmmuseum.org. These tractors are used for everyday chores as well to pull hay wagons for visitors. To get a sense of what it was like to work the land and tend the livestock in the 19th century New England, head to this vibrant living history museum in New Hampshire. Tucked away on 50 rural acres, the grounds consist of homestead and farm dating back to the late 1700s. The one-of-a-kind butterscotch yellow farmhouse stretches 275 in length, connecting two residences and three-story barns. Inside its latter is an assemblage of fascinating historical objects, providing a peek into a long life ago. Among them, a locally manufactured 90-foot sled capable of carrying over 100 people, and a workshop housing antique farm implements. In the oldest home, you'll find wooden dishes and kitchenware that belonged to farmers' original owners who ran a tavern in the space. Geared toward the experimental fun, and the New Hampshire Farm Museum encourages guests to get hands-on. Visitors are encouraged to try it all, from churning butter to feeding some cows, pigs, sheep, goats, chickens, and rabbits. Says Volunteers Director Janet Hotkiss, our focus is the children. And there's an old adage, tell me and I will forget. Teach me and I will remember. Involve me, and I will learn. One of the things the kids like to do is the children's chores. They use a scrub or wringer washer to wash clothes, and they hang them up on a wooden clothes rack. They will also use the yolks. I'll fasten some buckets to each end, and they pump water for them to take back to water the chickens. The museum serves up lots of weekend events during its open season, which typically runs from May to the end of November. June 19th example is Children's Day with historical games, tractor rides, farm songs, and more. There is an annual Truck and Tractor Day, which is July 4th, known as 4th on the Farm, with musket demonstration, historical reenactments, and live music. Old Tool Day lands on July 24th and gives visitors the opportunity to smoke Haven axe grinders, hay rakes, and other old-fashioned machinery. Tennessee Agricultural Museum is located in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's tn.gov/ag, which is AG Museum, MUSEUM. The sprawling campus is home to a lovely heirloom garden located at the top, pictured here, and countless opportunities to learn. From its 207 acres, just 10 miles from the bustling heart of Nashville, the Tennessee Agricultural Museum mission is in its part to educate the city dwellers about how farming has evolved over time. The institution housed a restored two-level horse barn from the 1920s, featured some 3,000 artifacts to help do just that. With a focus on rural life before the advent of electricity, the museum displays a curious side saddle as well as sheep-powered treadmill that helped with smaller household chores such as churning butter and washing clothes. Perhaps the most intriguing item is covered tar pole wagon, which dates to sometime between 1790 and 1830. We know it came from Missouri, which is unusual as we generally think of settlers coming from the east to the west, says the museum director, Alana Guttersman. But someone up there decided to come down here. It's just really neat to stand beside it and think that the family that loaded all their worldly goods inside it, walked beside it, lived in it, and hopefully managed to change their situation for the better. The state-run museum runs a year-round program to school children with the intent of teaching the importance of farming to youth from all backgrounds. Their summertime on the farm event, scheduled to run June to July, is centered around the museum's heirloom garden and historic cabins. According to Alora, the program participants to try and get out on the farm chores as they were performed in the past, such as picking veggies, sweeping the cabin, washing the clothes, and using the plow. Such interesting places. Okay, the New Mexico Farm and Ranch Heritage Museum is located in Las Cruces, New Mexico, and they do have a website. It's NM, so N like Nancy, M like Mary, farmandranchmuseum.org. Situated just west of the Oregon Mountains, this farm and ranch museum explores the region's diverse agricultural history. It's best to block out at least a few hours to explore the wide-ranging state-run museum, which opened its doors in 1998 with the aim of preserving and sharing long-storied history of agriculture in New Mexico. A significant portion of the permanent heritage gallery in the 1,000-square-foot main building is thus dedicated to contributions of the region's indigenous people, providing a welcome counterbalance to the oft-told white settler story. The displays includes a recreated Mogollon pit house and exhibits of pottery and tools dating as early to the 12,000. Further on, the gallery offers a Spanish colonial section detailing the period after the conquistador Juan de Ordonete arrived in 1598, bringing the livestock and crops that changed New Mexico forever. Outside its gallery walls, the museum is home to ponies, sheep, and 7 breeds of cattle. Visitors are invited to schedule guided 20-minute golf cart tours of the animals' stomping grounds, known as the South 20. Historical demonstrations and workshops are on the schedule pretty regularly, too. These include fiber arts such as quilting, sewing, weaving, and spinning. And for those looking to roll up their sleeve and dig deeper into the topic of the New Mexican agriculture, the museum houses a stellar research library as well as an oral history collection. Visitors who are unable to make it to the brick-and-mortar location can check out 4 online exhibits, including Home on the Range, From Ranchers to Rockets, a look back of the early ranch life in the area that would later become White Sands Missile Range. But interactive fun isn't all that makes this place special. Our museum connects multiple generations, says Communications Manager Craig Massey. If you look back at anyone's family history, at some point you have ancestors that grew their own food. This museum is all about our parents, grandparents, or even further down the line. You'll see families that come through and a grandfather is showing his grandson. We used to use that kind of tool. I've seen those interactions and heard those conversations, and it's very neat. I like the fact that this museum is all about family. Okay, next page. The American Tractor Museum, located in Perryville, Missouri. And yes, they have a website, AmericanTractorMuseum.com. Alongside its permanent collection, the museum rotates featured tractors loaned from community members. The embodiment of one of Missouri man's love for an orphan tractor, the American Tractor Museum showcases an array of antique machines, some of which were crafted, at least in part, in the backyard blacksmith shop. While the rust and belt manufacturers who produced so many of these tractors are no longer in existence, giving rise to the term orphan, Kenny Bucket collects its machinery whenever he finds it. According to the museum's board, member Elisa Ernst is Kenny's way of paying homage to the country's agricultural history and the grit and ingenuity of its farmers. To that end, the institution also gathers personal stories and photos from the producers who have used tractors like those featured, and it shares the information on site and on its website. About 65 of Kenny's beautifully restored tractors are on display, but the board is looking to expand the 11,000 square foot space to make room for more examples from his collection. Kenny's oldest machine is a massive Avery steam traction engine with a thresher that dates back to 1911, and it weighs at a whopping 24,180 pounds. Other showstoppers include 2 Oliver 77 row crops used in the Johnny Cash biopic Walk the Line. For the admirers for the more understated machines, the American Tractor Museum also features an exhibit of about 90 pedal tractors. So these are some interesting places that you can go and just check it out, take the kids, and educate them. Okay, so we've got, oh goodness, half a book left, if my mouth does not run out on me first. What a seed means. More than a promise of food, seeds offer a glimpse into all that we share. By Michael Pinellas. Ask agricultural producer or any stripe about the value of seed and watch the corners of their eyes. I spent several years as a witness to the ways that the drought in California worked that drained the spirit from our food system. But even as far as long as the drought's 5th anniversary, I could have asked this question of the hard-hit producers whose dream had been put on hold or reconfigured, and the crow's feet from smiling eyes would have surely have betrayed them. Those who know seeds intimately as the foundation of the economic sustenance inevitably find inspiration in them as well. A spark of wonder is born from understanding what an individual seed can become upon sprouting, what a seed holds under its coat. This spark transforms the practice of planting, harvesting, and saving seeds from simply making the season of the year to marketing the seasons of our lives. Here in the American West, we are deeply invested in seeds. While the boom and bust industries are dominant forces, agricultural production is broadly a mediator. We keep planting and plants keep growing. Soft commodity prices track oil, sure, but food is food, and humans are animals and we eat. We like our crops, are tuned to tuning of the seasons in the West. Intense genetic diversity in our seed stock allows us to produce in our rough around the edges corner of the world where extremes are the norm. We convince seeds to grow in some of the lowest and highest zones of our continent, some of the wettest and driest. We graze on exceptionally diverse rangelands, with western states claiming the many top spots in the nation for vascular plant diversity. It is no coincidence that the National Seed Bank, formerly called the National Laboratory for Genetic Resource Preservation, is located here in Fort Collins, Colorado. In the West, our seeds are our heritage, but in recent years, even as trusty little cotyledons continue to push up through our precious topsoil, something else has been growing alongside them. We have become a suspicious people. We feel somehow threatened by newcomers driving our roads, attending our schools, and bringing in our harvest. Of course, few things are more natural than trying to protect one's heritage. The West is a place where the world itself, heritage, carries a lot of weight. The seeds we grow through have their own histories. Most of the crops were tended and bred for millennia, and others, often the ancestors of those relocating today to the new American West. Some of these seeds were tended and domesticated by peoples who have lived here long before us. Cherries come from what today Turkey and apples from Kazakhstan. Cows were the first domesticated in Southwest Asia, and early breeding also took place in Pakistan. Alfalfa was initially cultivated in the region of Iran, and the oldest wheats and barleys we know came from Israel and Syria. Sheep, too, were domesticated in Southwest Asia before being spread to Europe and Africa. Lettuce was grown in Egypt. Potato genealogy traces to what is now Peru. Beans, the staple of science classrooms everywhere, were sprouted for consumption in such far-flung places as Thailand, Peru, and Afghanistan. That perhaps most quote-unquote American of all foods, corn, has a 10,000-year history closer to home in Mexico and indigenous North American stewardess and the plant communities of our emblematic rangelands for all ages. The reality is that roughly 75% of the farm workers are foreign-born, yet from the day they set foot on this land, we already share the most fundamental kind of heritage with them. Our livelihoods and our profession rely deeply on this shared heritage. Perhaps the most affirming morning is a farmer's year starting with a glance out the window. A look at the catches on the first scattering of growth in a field. For ranchers, it might be spotting the first brilliant greens and cranberry reds of spring leaves. Witnessing new life never fails to stir within me a jolt of reverence and accompanying shot of adrenaline. These moments are what drives us to love producing food, and when the time rolls around to save seed, where the emotions surface again, the wonders well up and makes us feel deeply productive of our seeds and the way life is. The thing is, seeds alone weren't enough to keep anyone happy, nor economically stable. We need people with whom we can share labor, meals, and dreams, and who better to share them with others who have the same deep ties to these same seeds, others who would recognize them as their heritage. We in the agriculture system are among the most practiced at nourishing life and understanding what it makes it so special. Even in fractured time, let's remember producing food in its deeply human pursuit that relies fundamentally on sharing. Oh goodness. The next part is a beautiful picture of, looks like mountains, cowboys going up this steep hill here. It says, Wild Country. Our national parks preserve land for our future generations, and they provide stunning scenery on the farm. The Winnemucca Wilderness in Colorado's San Juan National Forest is the largest wilderness area in the state. Much of it is accessible only by hiking or horseback. This trio is enjoying a summer day at 11,000 feet. Christopher Morona from Durango, Colorado. That feels like more than one page. Aha. Okay, we got another beautiful picture here. It kind of looks like something you'd see picturesque on the Yellowstone, but it's not Yellowstone. It's just a barn with the stable out in front of it. Lots of dry grass with some mountains in the back. It says, the John Moulton Barn at the Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming is among the most photographed barns in the world. What a thrill to capture it in the glorious morning sun and fog. Kenneth Carpenter from Pullman, Washington. And we got another beautiful picture here, if I can get this paperclip to come out from hiding. And it's a, looks like a rock foundation mountain behind some green land, and then there's a farmer in the field here. It says, a farmer cuts hay in Rockville, Utah, with Mount Keneva Sandstone Peak in Zion National Park as the extraordinary backdrop. Robert Ford, The Getty Images. So that's what hay looks like before it's cut. That's kind of interesting. Okay, next page. There is a picture here that I marked from Illinois. In the field, celebrating life and work in the country. Helping hands. Sometimes a quick snapshot makes the most memorable image. These farm-loving children are getting Grandpa's tractor cleaned for the annual tractor drive and parade. Laura Sturchy from Dundas, Illinois. That's kind of cute, cool. And they're so cute. One little girl's on the tire. Another little boy's on the inside of the tire. One little boy is, looks like he's trying to squirt water near what might be the engine of it. And the little girl's cleaning off the tire. They're having a big time. And would you believe we're about done with this magazine already? That's pretty quick for us, kids. Okay, Pop Country. The Castroville Poppy House in Texas is home to the historic buildings dating from the 1850s to the 1940s. Folks flock to see its wildflowers and poppies in the springtime bloom, but the barn looks primed for the 4th of July. The photo by Andrea Garza from Getty Images. And that completes Farm and Country or Farm and Ranch Living magazine. Great magazine. It's from the June-July 2021. Be sure to pick it up because I did not read every single article. There's some in there that you've got to read. And it's a pretty good magazine, pretty good read. So be sure to check it out. I may go ahead and do one more magazine tonight. That way we'll get down to hopefully cutting our magazines down for tomorrow. That would be cool. So stay tuned.